Obsessions and addictions. Two things that are different, but very similar. I am Naka, this is Japatonic, and today we are going to talk about some problems that the Japanese have, about things they do and cannot stop. Let's start with the most basic of all, the one that all Japanese people always mention. When a person is one of the most exemplary and correct people, he is a man who does not indulge in gambling, tobacco, sake, or women, which would be equivalent to betting, cigarettes, alcohol, and women. Of course, Japan is a country with a level of gambling addiction. It is said that approximately 5% of the population places bets, who go to the famous pachinko, right? Pachinko is something that you can find anywhere in the country, in any corner of the country, in any remote city. Even if you are on very remote routes, in the middle of the field, where there was absolutely nothing, but if there is a giant building in the middle of the route, it's a pachinko. So gambling addiction in Japan is very big. Well, cigarettes, it is said that in the 80s, 80% of the population smoked. Well, today it's not as high, but people still smoke a lot. Alcohol, well, I've already talked about the issue of alcohol, haven't I? That the Japanese relieve their stress with alcohol. And the fact is that there may be those who are very addicted or those who simply drink casually. I, for example, when I arrived in Japan, I've said it, I hardly drank. And here is when I developed a taste for alcohol. At first I don't like beer. Well, maybe I like some other drink, which they suggested had less alcohol content or was sweeter. And that, until I ended up liking beer and other types of alcohol. And so on. Alcoholism is also a very serious issue in Japan. Which, let's see, is the way people socialize a lot of the time. And why do they socialize? Because there always has to be an alcoholic in a group. That sometimes, because of a matter of being superior at work or something, invites others to drink. And what about women? Here we are not necessarily and specifically referring to what would be sexual services, but we could be talking about something that is much more serious, that can lead to ruin for many people, which would be the famous Kyabakura, the hostess clubs. The fact is that the girls who work as companions in these semi-luxurious bars are girls who earn extreme amounts of money. Let's see. I've seen many television programs where they interview what would be the hostesses. And the amount of money they earn is usually $10,000 or more per month. Working 5 hours per night, basically. Do they have to sleep with clients? No, not necessarily. It's the minority who do. And the girls are full of money because it's very similar to what the culture of what we're going to talk about now, which is the culture of idols. It's something quite similar. That is already an obsession and an addiction. That the idol girls are these girls who are super young, super kawaii, who dance, who do quite simple, childish choreographies, and so on. I made a video about the topic of idol culture, but the thing is that otakus who become obsessed with idols sometimes reach extreme points, where it can be dangerous for the girls, right? But of those who are not dangerous, they are guys who spend all their money on things for the girls. Look, he has a pet bunny. Oh, how cute. And the bunny behaves very well. Yes. And well, another thing is the Japanese obsession with kittens, the little animals. But that's good. Nothing's wrong with it. Obviously, there are tons of such obsessions. Nice, healthy, cool ones. But, well, going back to the idols. These girls are like micro celebrities, from which they earn very little money, which is already detailed in the video about the idols. But they make a lot of money from what the fans buy. Buying pictures with them, or individual ones, or merchandising. And that's basically called Oshi, right? Because they saw... There's an anime called Oshinoko, which Oshinoko would be... It's hard to translate it correctly. Because I asked my wife if that phrase made sense, And she told me it's not a normal phrase, that it doesn't make much sense. But it can have a very specific meaning in manga anime. Because Oshi is when we are with the person who we give all our support to. The person we invest time and money in to support that artist. What could be an artist is not always an artist. But usually, it's almost always about an artist. But, well, the thing is, I went around in circles. But what I wanted to focus on was the word Oshi, which would be what we support, right? That could be, for example, a fan of Justin Bieber. Can't be an Oshi of Justin Bieber. Why do I have to give that shitty example? But, well, the thing is that this is an example of the Oshi topic. It's something very similar to what happens with the Kyabakura, right? With these hostesses. It's basically like supporting someone who is not a celebrity, who is not famous. But it's like wanting to give them fame in their small world. But what happens? That one wants to give them support in that small world because they are within their small world. Very personal, very intimate. You're not supporting Justin Bieber, you're not supporting a big celebrity, but it's something more personal, a more intimate support. Let's see, would it be easier to find a partner? Yes, everyone thinks the same, but it's precisely like an addiction and a very common obsession among the Japanese. I wouldn't say it's normalized, it's like very specific people who get into these things. Those hooks of sticking with the hostess. But it's really seen. And people end up investing a lot of money. I've seen cases, for example, when it's one of these girls' birthday. I mean, they want to build a champagne tower in which each bottle of champagne costs about $1,000. And to build a tower, you need at least 10 bottles. At a minimum. And I've seen on a television program, for example, a taxi driver. A taxi driver prepared $10,000 to buy it and invest in champagne bottles. For the birthday of the hostess that he liked, whom he supported. And what he said, no, I want her to do super well. I'm a taxi driver, it costs me a lot, but I want to support her a lot. But man, you earn 1/10 of what this girl makes, do you understand? But they seem to want to show that support. Because they have that obsession, that addiction to these people. And the exact same thing happens with the hosts, right? With those who would be boys serving girls, which is the same thing. I don't know how they do it, but the thing is that the girls end up extremely hooked on these boys. And they make it so, well, I've already said it, to the point that many end up working at night or prostituting themselves, all too invested in their favorite host, the one they support, the one they feel is like a boyfriend, but they know he's not the boyfriend. But there are also deceptions, to the point that it is said that they are their partners. But it's all a farce. But, well, that's already going into detail on another topic. But the addiction to the boys and girls of the night, to share drinks, that is an addiction. Very, very strong that the Japanese have, and it's something very Japanese. And this is not vice, nor obsession, but compulsion. Compulsive purchases that one makes with Japatonic machines, things that one does not need. But, of course, it doesn't matter what you're looking for. If you're looking for something on the internet to buy, they always have Zen Market. Zen Market is the most reliable page for making compulsive internet purchases. This has a button, but it doesn't make a sound. This is a button that appears at traffic light intersections. That at night, when few people cross, to cross the pedestrian, one needs to press that button for the traffic light to change. But, well, the thing is that Zen Market is the trusted proxy page from which you can buy all your internet stuff. From Japan, that from any Japanese page you want to make purchases, you can use Zen Market. I mean, internet pages like Amazon, Yahoo, Japan, Mercari, and all those that do not ship outside of Japan. You can make the purchase from Zen Market with an extremely low commission and safely. Remember, as always, you have the discount code Japatonic or the link in the description, in which on your first purchase you will have a discount of 1,500 yen. which is basically the commission of the purchase of 3 products. Zen Market, thank you very much always for sponsoring us. Let's put that aside and go to others that would be, in quotes, more basic, right? Which would be addiction to work, to studies, to leisure, to video games. There are some who are very obsessed with arcade video games, which, let's see, this is not news, right? But I don't know if it's good or bad. It's okay. They are their hobbies, but they have to see the level at which many people play. To the music machines. Well, I'm going to leave you with some images. Things that I've captured with my phone on tours, visiting arcades. But, well, what is the addiction to work and study? That can basically happen anywhere. That work addiction is more for entrepreneurs, for independents, freelancers and all that, not so much for the dependent. And what is the addiction to study? Well, also that is something that will go with each one. The thing is that in Japan it might be a little more common, due to a lack of social life, right? That basically is, let's say, like it has that little, in quotes, incentive to continue studying, because they might not have much social life. They don't dedicate. They don't have leisure other than the study itself. Maybe it's part of their hobbies, their pastime. But, on the other hand, changing the subject again, we have the Japanese obsession with white skin and beauty. That is not a minor detail because here the Japanese in general, in summer they all use umbrellas, 50+ sunscreen, and nobody tans. And the issue of beauty is something that is becoming more and more normalized. All that are beauty treatments, even cosmetic surgery, which I've also seen on television programs that constantly interview girls who have had surgery and girls who spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars per year to have surgeries. Many have them done in Japan. Many go all the way to Korea to have those surgeries. Although the funny thing is that it's quite difficult to detect who has had surgery or not, the surgeries are quite discreet. Why do I say this? Because the Koreans are usually the ones who have had surgery. They tend to be the ones who are very similar to the Asian AIs. Basically, they are very similar. Like they have that pattern, like the Koreans want to have that face. The Japanese, on the other hand, try to improve what they already have in terms of face. But the addiction to surgeries? Let's see. It's not that widespread, but there are some. And the obsession with beauty is quite common. Because it's a very superficial country, in the sense that everyone has to be very well dressed and always presentable everywhere, at all times. And well, it's part of those little things that many Japanese people can't let go of, especially in this case, women. Then, of course, the addictions to online games and all that, typical as everywhere. But, well, of course, in Japan, everything that would be famous games and those things that make you invest money is completely full. To the point that I remember there was a case of a boy who, unintentionally the government or something, had made a bank transfer of about $200,000, something like that. And when they realized and wanted to claim the boy, he had spent all of it on applications and everything. I think that maybe all of that was just an excuse to say, I've already used the money, so I can't give it back. But, well, beyond that, let's see everything that is online shopping these days. I think we're all addicted now. I mean, sometimes I spend hours and hours and hours looking at Amazon, Mercury, and similar pages to see what I can buy. My wife also often buys clothes. The amount of clothes she has is ridiculous, and sometimes she buys, uses an item, and then sells it. I think we're all very addicted to online shopping because everything is very, very, very accessible. I mean, but the fact is that Amazon grew so much because it was working very well to the point that Amazon Prime already, sometimes, instead of arriving 24 hours later, it can arrive. If you ordered at night, it can arrive by dawn. I mean, it can arrive between 4 and 8 in the morning. I mean, you place the order, At night, you get up and before going to work, you have your order right there at your front door. Or else, also, if you order something in the morning, it can arrive in the afternoon, evening, after 7 in the evening. I mean, and of course the services are so convenient, so good that corporations have made us addicted to these kinds of services. Was this video a critique of capitalism's camouflaged? Oh, it looks so deep. Well, it was a pretty casual video about the topic of Japanese addictions and obsessions. Either way, there are a lot of things that probably got left out. Because, let's see, you in the comments will say all the obsessions and addictions that the Japanese have that were not mentioned, which are countless. I'm sure that everyone is going to say, the topic of schoolgirls. They are going to mention it for sure. I say it before they write it down below. See you next time. Greetings to you, your family and your pet, and to your annoying neighbor. Bye.